That's okay. It's constantly surprising. Yeah. Yes.
Funny. Ladies and gentlemen, the ceremony will begin in 5 minutes. As a courtesy, please ensure all your electronic devices are turned off for the duration of today's ceremony. For our military guests, this will be a covered evolution. Thank you.
The speaker was not on.
Good morning. I'm the NJS Executive Officer, Commander Mike Bloomrose, and I have the pleasure of welcoming you to the Change of Command ceremony for the Naval Justice School. The Change of Command ceremony is a time-honored tradition which formally restates the continuity of the authority of command. As the oldest command in the JAG Corps, the Naval Justice School has been upholding this tradition since our commissioning in 1946. This simple tradition is duplicated hundreds of times daily throughout the navies of the world, as each watch officer passes responsibility to his or her relief in the conduct of each command's routine, whether ashore or afloat. Bosun, post the side boys. Will the guests please rise for the arrival of the official party and remain standing until completion of the invocation. Captain, United States Navy, arriving. Naval Justice School, arriving. Deputy Judge Advocate General of the Navy for Reserve Affairs and Operations, arriving. Parade the colors. Ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem. Retire the colors.
Carry. Arms. Ready. 2. Colors. Colors. Turn. March.
Chaplain McGinn will now offer the invocation.
Please join me in the spirit of reflection and prayer. Let us remember here what Seneca said thousands of years ago. Nothing is noble if it is done unwillingly or under compulsion. Every noble deed is voluntary. Let each of us be reminded of how nobility emerges from the voluntary, from what is chosen and accepted. In this simple tradition, command passes voluntarily and with nobility from one to another. May our personal nobility be renewed today, so we may live lives in service to the greater good. This is our prayer, and we lift it up in the name of all that is holy. Amen.
Bosun, retire the colors. Oh, the side boys.
Side boys, left forward, right face. Forward, arch.
The guests, please be seated.
Good morning. A little bit difficult this morning. I've already screwed up once and accidentally took Admiral Meyer's chair. So we'll see if I can make it through another 20 minutes or so without screwing up again. But Team NJS, I told you I was going to make mistakes. Why not make one more on the way up the door? It's my privilege to introduce the officer presiding over today's ceremony, our guest speaker, Rear Admiral Mark Myers. At this point in the other 27 speeches I've given from podium this year, I've said you all went to second grade and know how to read. So his bio is in your program, but Admiral Myers came in at the last minute, so you don't have his bio. Admiral Myers is a graduate of undergraduate studies at UCLA and went to law school at McGeorge School of Law at University of the Pacific. He was commissioned in the JAG Corps student program in 1994. Along the way, he's received multiple advanced degrees from military institutions, including the Air War College, the Joint Forces Staff College, and the National Defense University. And I think he would agree his most notable educational accomplishment is he's a graduate of BLC 97010, the best BLC ever. Disregard everything I've ever told you about BLC 97010. I forgot Admiral Myers was the star of that class. He was on active duty for a while, started out his active duty career at NILSO Northwest for our young junior officers. The Navy used to have these things called Naval Legal Service Offices. Out in Whidbey Island, and then he went to Millington to NPC and finished his active duty time as the SJA at Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base, Fort Worth, Texas. After separating from active duty, he affiliated with the reserves, and along his career, he's had just a wonderful reserve career with a couple of command stops as the CO of Navy Reserve Pacific Fleet Legal and U.S. Fleet Forces Command legal units. He's had SJA assignments, including at NORTHCOM NORAD as the deputy for the Deputy Chief of Naval Operations and for Commander U.S. 7th Fleet. He's been the Chief of Staff of the SecNav Reserve Policy Board and a member of the Navy Reserve Policy Board. And like I mentioned, 97010, the best BLC class ever. Please join me in welcoming our guest speaker, the Deputy Judge Advocate General for Reserve Affairs and Operations, Rear Admiral Mark Meyer.
That was the best class ever. Not just because he was in it. Good morning, sailors. It is great to be here. I appreciate the warm introduction. Friends, family, thank you for being here. Distinguished visitors, it is a pleasure to see you all this morning. A change of command is not complete without family and honored guests being here as part of the day. Joining us today, we have several of those guests. Lieutenant Colonel Tyre Wittick, retired Marine Corps, former executive officer of NJS, and currently the NJS Foundation Vice President. Is that correct? We have others here today as well with Captain Record, his wife Tammy. Thank you for being here. Daughter Allie, son Jamie, and fiance Bree. Did I get that right down the line? Okay. Allie, recent Auburn grad, and Jamie, an LSU grad, and starting out down in the Houston area. Is that right? Great. It's good to see you all here. And Art's parents, Warren and Sandy. Thank you for joining us today, traveling in from Gulfport, Mississippi. I'd also like to welcome the guests of Captain Williams, his family and friends, who I had a chance to meet earlier today. Mother Teresa, sister-in-law Shelley, nephew Braden, thank you for being here. They traveled in from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And there are others who would like to have been here or joining us remotely, including Mike Williams and Captain Williams' younger brother Kyle, niece Addison, all would like to have been here today. Grandfather D.C. Williams, a World War II Army veteran who lives in Longview, Texas. An uncle, Charles Lombardino, sorry. Get that? Okay. An aviation ordnanceman, third class during the Vietnam War, serving on the USS Ranger. It's great to have that history and that legacy in our families of military service. Thank you all for supporting Captain Williams, for being here today. It's a big deal that you're all here. It's a big deal that we are here to recognize this occasion. Captain Record, Captain Williams, having lived in the Dallas area myself for the last 23 years, with a brother in the Houston area, a father-in-law who's an LSU grad in the Vietnam era, or Vietnam vet, I feel like I already have a connection with most of your guests. So in addition to being here on this great day, I look forward to meeting each of you. I'm grateful to be here on behalf of Vice Admiral Crandall and Rear Admiral French. I spoke to Admiral French yesterday. He sends his regrets and best wishes. It was clear as I spoke to him that he has great admiration for this command, its team, and its commanding officer. The turnover of a Navy command is the formal transition of responsibility, authority, and accountability from one officer to another. Navy regulations dictate that the commanding officer about to be relieved of command calls an all-hands muster, and here we are today. Then reads the orders of detachment. The relieving officer then reads his orders and assumes command. In a few moments, you will witness the simple yet markedly formal and distinctively effective ceremony as we bid farewell and following seas to one commanding officer and welcome another. But before that, I would like to highlight the accomplishments of Naval Justice School under Captain Record's leadership. I want to note for all of us sitting here in the audience that you were his number one focus. The Naval Justice School is the flagship of the JAG Corps. Captain Record is the skipper, and the sailors here are its crew. NJS is the flagship of the JAG Corps because of its foundational role to the JAG Corps and the Navy. It serves a much greater role than simply having a training mission. It provides professional development. It's an entry point for new JAGs and legal men, and the introduction of the JAG Corps for all new accessions across the Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard. In that sense, it builds an affinity for the organization and establishes that initial expertise and organizational clarity that we all need to serve. Today, the Navy JAG Corps has about 1,400 judge advocates and about 650 legal men. Each of these sailors and legal professionals prepared to serve the JAG Corps and the fleet right here at NJS. We all receive substantive training right here at NJS, which translates into our diverse practice areas: military justice, national security law, administrative law, legal assistance, and civil law. This training directly leads to mission accomplishment. To provide a full spectrum legal services to enable naval and joint operations in support of our national security. That is the JAG Corps' mission. I will also add that it provides the foundation for us also to serve our communities. Current and former judge advocates and legal men serve in volunteer organizations in the private sector, at all levels of government and at all levels of the judiciary. All of this because of our flagship here at Naval Justice School. Today, NJS has never been better, stronger, or prepared to meet that mission. But this was not necessarily true a year ago. The COVID pandemic hit all organizations hard, but it especially hurt academic institutions, and NJS was no exception. Through teamwork, innovation, and creative uses of technology, NJS continued to meet the mission. But over time, the effects were becoming apparent. Our flagship was heading toward the shoals. Captain Record assumed command on June 13th, 2022. When he arrived, this crew had weathered the stormy waters and the worst of the pandemic had started to subside. Energized by new leadership and bolstered by your commitment to teamwork and reliance on each other, you have accomplished incredible things over the past year. I will highlight an example of this teamwork, which illustrates what you can accomplish when you work together towards a common goal, specifically the legal men manning gap. For years, the JAG Corps has battled persistent legal men manning gaps. This impacts manning, not just manning, but morale and our ability to provide the best legal services to the fleet. The issue became acute last year when we had a projected shortfall of 90 legal men by the end of the fiscal year. Part of the problem stemmed from training throughput. Historically, NJS graduated 60 LNs each year, 2 courses with 30 students each. To close the gap, Naval Justice School needed to graduate 15 additional students per class, for a size of 45 LNs, a 50% increase. On top of its demanding mission, NJS was asked to solve the throughput problem. Captain Record and his crew embraced that challenge, creating cross-departmental teams that identified necessary resources and isolated barriers and overcame them. Looked at classroom reconfiguration and admin support requirements, communicated those requirements to the JAG Corps, and went from 60 to 90 students per year. That raised significant challenges. Captain Record was able to find, and this team was able to find, the resources to solve those challenges. As a result, in March of 2023, 37 students went through, and in July, 45. The next recruiting class will also be 45. Faced with a long-term, seemingly intractable problem, NJS's crew over the past year has put the JAG Corps on path to close the legal men manning gap. So again, the Naval Justice School has never been better. Naval Justice School is a special place, the flagship of the JAG Corps. I recently finished reading a book that highlighted 10 great historical and modern naval leaders throughout the world. The book focused on character and character development. Each leader had unique traits, but the author captured a few that were common to all, in particular, innovation and resilience. Captain Record and this crew demonstrated those same traits to right our flagship and reset its course. And when talking about the ship and its crew, it's also appropriate to talk about the skipper, Captain Art Record. He assumed command on very short notice. He and Tammy were driving cross country, heading to DC for his next assignment, when Jack called and diverted him here to Newport. He did not hesitate to raise his hand to go where the JAG Corps needed him, resilient and willing. When he and Tammy first arrived in Newport, they had no place to live for 2 months, and their household goods were already en route to DC. They stayed with friends for several weeks till they got placed in base housing, but he immediately got to work. Great ships need great crews, and great crews need great skippers. And you, Captain Record, led the NJS crew exceptionally well. Allow me to share some stories of the positive impact of your leadership. You're devoted to your crew. You care about your people and personally ensure their well-being. Over Thanksgiving, you opened your home to enlisted Marine students, hosting them with a full spread of home-cooked traditional Thanksgiving delicacies with an additional Louisiana touch of gumbo. I'd like to see the Thanksgiving gumbo. You watched Thanksgiving football with them and played board games with any and all takers who would join you. You are tireless. You seldom slowed down to take breakfast, lunch, or an afternoon snack break. You came to work directly from your morning workouts. You got after it until the work was done that day. But you also know that wellness is an important part, and the physical fitness is a part of military service. I understand that you were in the gym every morning at 5, often dressed like Rocky Balboa. And your no-frills hooded sweatshirt. Taking care of your own wellness so that you could serve your crew. You led by example, not just by work ethic and taking care of yourself, but in service at every level. Your officers of the deck would often see you walk through the quarterdeck with a vacuum and start vacuuming your own office, often wondering if they should be doing that for you. But not only does NJS have clean carpets, it is also known for having clean sidewalks. I understand that you also have been seen out here with a shovel, not a snow shovel, not shoveling snow, but shoveling that which is left over from all the geese in the area. Now that takes commitment and courage. These otherwise small acts inspired and motivated those around you to maintain standards and to get the job done. Captain Record also has the additional responsibility of serving as a special assistant for training, the principal advisor to the JAG on all training for the Navy and the Navy JAG community, legal training. In this role, he is responsible for oversight, management, and execution of training for the JAG Corps, leading the process to develop the NJS training schedule and budget, identifying and validating training requirements, and many other responsibilities to ensure readiness across the JAG Corps and the fleet. Captain Record, under your leadership, your team has accomplished incredible things over the past year. 5 basic lawyer classes, 4 legal ministration courses, 4 senior legal courses to prepare incoming commanding officers and executive officers and senior enlisted. You've also successfully executed numerous short courses to provide intermediate and advanced level training. To all of you at Naval Justice School, you have come together as a team through your incredible efforts, have contributed to the warfighting readiness of the sea services and the Joint Force. I know Captain Record would agree that he could not have led the command successfully without his executive officers and senior enlisted leaders. So on behalf of Captain Record, I'd like to publicly recognize his executive officer, Colonel Gibson, and his current XO, Commander Bloomrose, and his senior enlisted leader, Master Chief Myron Chisholm. CMC and I were mobilized together probably a dozen years ago. It's great to see him here this morning and be able to visit with him again over the last few years. Thank you all for your dedication and selfless service to the members of the mission and to the Naval Justice School. If I may quickly quote Captain Charlotte Claverius, who is the CEO of the NJS Reserve Unit. Captain Record is amazing, and the crew of NJS are an exceptional team who have responded brilliantly to ever-increasing demands. Simply put, the team never fails to rise to the challenge and makes it look easy. Captain Record, thank you for your leadership, as all of this has occurred over the last year, for your contributions to the people and mission of Naval Justice School. You arrived with a learning attitude, were innovative and thoughtful, empowered your crew, self-assessed, self-corrected, and reached better outcomes. As we farewell one leader, though, we also welcome another, Captain Chris Williams. An equally capable officer and attorney, we have every confidence that you, Captain Williams, will build upon the accomplishments of this crew over the past year and work to continue on a path of excellence. Captain Williams has had an impressive career with a diverse combination of tours and extensive leadership experience. He's deployed 5 times, twice at sea, on Confib Round 4, embarked in USS Wasp, in Carrier Strike Group 10, embarked in USS Harry S. Truman, and 3 times overseas, to Baghdad and twice to Guantanamo Bay. He has performed 3 Defense Council tours and represented clients from E1 to O10. Served as assistant professor of law and the law section head at the U.S. Naval Academy. Served in Germany at U.S. European Command, at OJAG as the deputy director of Code 61, as executive officer at Defense Service Office North, legal counsel to the Naval Inspector General. Most recently, he has served as the commanding officer of Defense Service Office North, located in Washington, D.C., but responsible for 7 offices spanning across 10 time zones on 3 continents. Captain Williams, this leadership opportunity you're taking on is an incredibly challenging but rewarding one. As shipmates and colleagues in service, we are bound by a voluntary covenant to each other, up and down the chain of command. Leaders promise to treat others with dignity and respect, to give clear direction and clarity, to create meaningful opportunities to serve and lead, to provide the tools and training to do the work, to give recognition for a job well done, an opportunity for personal and professional growth. Chris, I know you will honor this covenant and your team will make you proud. You know what it means to be a skipper, and you will soon take command of the flagship of the Navy JAG Corps. You will do so with an incredible crew to support you. I look forward to the next 2 years as you successfully lead this crew into the future, training and professionally developing the men and women who will deliver legal services in support of our national security. Your path here has prepared you well, and welcome to Naval Justice School. Now, if I may ask Captain Record to join me on the stage. I'd like to recognize your leadership, your accomplishments. As one last congratulations on a successful command tour.
Attention to award. The President of the United States takes pleasure in presenting the Legion of Merit Gold Star in lieu of the 4th award to Captain Warren A. Record, Judge Advocate General's Corps, United States Navy, for service as set forth in the following citation. For exceptionally meritorious conduct in the performance of outstanding service from June 2022 to August 2023 as Commanding Officer of the Naval Justice School and as the Special Assistant to the Judge Advocate General for training. Displaying exceptional temperament, judgment, and selflessness, Captain Record reinvigorated the staff and modernized the educational experience at the Naval Justice School while also spearheading training reforms stemming from the National Defense Authorization Act 2022, to include the establishment of the Office of Special Trial Counsel. Captain Record formalized standard-based training across all curricula, improved the Board of Advisors process for all courses, and directed the implementation for the Legal Man of Sessions course and Basic Lawyer course. By his dynamic direction, sound judgment, and loyal devotion to duty, Captain Record reflected great credit upon himself and upheld the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. For the President, Carlos del Toro, Secretary of the Navy. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Art Record, Judge Advocate General's Corps, United States Navy, Commanding Officer, Naval Justice School.
Thanks, XO. Everyone, please be seated. I don't get to be the person who says that in a little while. Admiral Myers, thank you so much for your remarks. Team, I'm going to apologize in advance because Admiral Myers said in a few moments you will witness. And you've known me for 14 months, and a few moments, maybe a few more. Ring, ring, Rear Admiral Dave Wilson, ring, ring. Last year, I was sitting in my living room in Bremerton, Washington. I just finished up at CO Grosso Northwest. And I remember looking out this window to the right, Mount Rainier sitting across Sinclair Inlet. Still had snow on the peak, and over to the left, the window looked down on the Puget Sound Naval Shipyard with its cranes and ships and submarines and warehouses and the bells and whistles and alarms and the constant hum of industrial activity that had been the soundtrack for the previous 2 years of my life. My mom and dad were there. They had come to town for the change of command ceremony. And we were just sitting on the couch talking about what I had learned the last 2 years and the great things my team had done. I had found out I was going to be the chief trial judge of the Navy Marine Corps trial judiciary, and we had a lease on a house on the Navy Yard once upon a time. Both the house and the job were on my bucket list, and all my dreams were coming true. My dreams were becoming a reality, and ring, ring. Ring, ring, Rear Admiral Dave Wilson. So I told my parents, I got to take this, and ran out on the porch, the only place that wasn't occupied by boxes and people. And Admiral Wilson said, set your GPS for Newport, make best speed. We didn't talk much. If you know Admiral Wilson, conversations are usually more of an experience with lots of talk about family and trips taken and recent soccer matches. It was very quick. And I said, thank you, sir, for your trust and confidence. I won't let you down. And that's that feeling of gratitude. That was the first thing I thought when I found out I was coming here. As a lieutenant, like some of you, I had put NJS instructor on my dream sheet. Unlike some of you, the CO of NJS said you don't have the right experiences, you're not good enough. And then in 2021, when I was negotiating for orders, CO of NJS was #1 on my list. But then it was short-filled when Captain Cooper retired. I volunteered for that hot fill, also didn't get that. So after a lifetime of wanting to be at NJS and not getting to be at NJS, it was finally happening. And I was thankful. So I went inside and I called Tammy. She was in the kitchen doing some last-minute cleaning. I said, hey, honey, can you come here? And so she walked out to the foyer, and I said, remember in my change of command remarks, I praised your flexibility and your zeal for adventure. Are you feeling flexible? And she did a little bit of a stretch, and she said, yes. And I said, are you up for an adventure? And she said, what is it? And I said, Admiral Wilson told me to go be the CO of NJS. And she said, what? NJS? Where's that? Newport, Rhode Island. And the blood ran out of her face, and she said, "What about our house at the Navy Yard? I've got friends. I got a friend who leased on Capitol Hill to be close to us. I've already got day trips planned. Jamie's getting married in DC. What about Jamie's wedding? Allie is going to live with us while she looks for a job." And at that moment, I realized that there's stuff changing. Things are going to change because of these orders. And I felt a sense of sorrow. And so we drove across the country as fast as we could, oftentimes faster than I'll tell you I drove. But we made it here and found friends to stay with while we waited for a house. Admiral Myers mentioned it, but if you're watching online, Danielle and Bill Hickson, thanks for being accepting of a couple of folks with a pet in tow on no notice. Found a place to live, and that Saturday morning I came in to do my turnover with Captain Klein, and I didn't know if I could do this. The thoughts that were going through my head were, I'm not prepared for this. I don't know what NJS does. I don't know how to be CO of NJS. What if I'm not ready? What if I'm not good enough? What if I fail? And so as I was driving up Connell Highway and I turned on Training Station Road, all of these thoughts, all this self-doubt, all of this worry is just like flowing through me. And it's mixed with, the gratitude, the recognition. This is the most awesome opportunity I've ever had. But I remember cresting the hill on Training Station Road. And as I got down close to the bridge, I see this group of young people out for a Saturday morning urban hike. Young people decked out in like rainbow gear, PT gear, with camelbacks on. They've since assured me those camelbacks were filled with water and not some other substance. And I mostly believe them. But all this stuff is going through my head. And I see this tall guy with a mustache. And I just get a sense of familiarity. And as I get close, he recognizes my truck and raises his hand and waves. And as I pass, I wave at him, and I realize it was Chris Day, who was one of my Rilso Northwest Ice Stoppers. And I look at the front of that pack of BLC students out for a Saturday morning hike, and it's Chris Day, Sammy Schatz, Summer Combs, and Matt Striggins, 4 Rilso Northwest Ice Stoppers. And I'm part of their story. I was their CO at the Rilso. I participated in their JAG Corps acculturation. I'm part of their story. And here they are as NJS students leaving their classmates on a Saturday morning to go do something positive and productive. And when I saw that, I had this sense of confidence. Oh, maybe there's a reason why I'm here. And so those three things, gratitude, sorrow, and confidence, those are sort of the story of my time at NJS. So always first with the thanks, and I'm going to start by thanking my lovely bride, Tammy. You've been a great partner. Just like I said last time, your zest for life and enthusiasm for adventure, your hospitality, all of those things are incredible. But I want to acknowledge that this tour, you dropped everything. You joined me on this unplanned adventure. You dealt with a summer filled with guest bedrooms and hotel rooms and a geriatric chihuahua with a blown out trachea. You got us a house, you made it a home. You found jobs and made friends. You didn't mope, you weren't sorry. You went on Facebook on the spouses group and said, all right, somebody have coffee with me. And you made a life here in Newport. And that's so impressive to me. And I'm super thankful that you held me together. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, and you definitely held me together when I needed it. I also got some of my children here. So Jacob, Allie, Jamie, I don't know if Jake's watching. I want to thank you. When our plans changed, your plans changed as well. But you made the most of it just like you've always done. And you're awesome, and I'm proud to be your dad. My mom and dad are here. And so mom and dad, of course, thank you for being here. But I want to thank you for all you taught me along the way. This was hard, and there were times when I got discouraged. So I remember last fall, I was struggling, And I thought back to my junior year of high school. And you may not know it now, but at one point in time, I was 6'3", 139 pounds, and loved playing football. And so I was playing football my junior year. And by playing, I mean I was on the team and was spending a lot of Friday nights watching my friends play football, relegated to junior varsity, not getting any playing time, not having any fun. I wasn't any good. And so one night that fall, I remember sitting in the living room with tears in my eyes and a quiver in my voice saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to play football. And y'all heard me out very calmly, very patiently. And when I got done crying, you said, okay, we don't quit. You don't have to play next year, but you have to finish what you started. And so this fall, when I was really struggling, did I mention I didn't know what to do as a CO of NJF? Learning on the fly and got discouraged. I thought back to the lessons learned by y'all teaching me not to give up. And what I remembered was the hardest things in life have always been the most meaningful. And it gave me the ability to press on. So Mom and Dad, thanks for not letting me quit my junior year football season. I think we have Admirals Crandall, French, and Wilson watching online. And so I just want to thank you, gentlemen, for this opportunity. Admiral Wilson, thank you for your trust and confidence. I hope I didn't let you down. Admiral Crandall, you approved this plan, you detailed me here, and you allowed me to grow in the role, and I appreciate that. And Admiral French, what can I say? After I got here, we were realigned to OJAG, and you became my reporting senior. I thank you for your patience, your availability, your willingness to listen. I know I called you probably more times than you wanted, sometimes frantic, often with issues or fears, and you never doubted me even when I doubted myself. And I really want to thank you on behalf of the team here at NJS. This last year, you've been the best friend of the Naval Justice School. In our Get Real, Get Better training, we have this language, fix or elevate. And I know I've elevated a lot of barriers this past year, but every time you've heard us out, you've supported us, you've given us authority, you've scraped together resources. I'm pretty sure you've even checked your own couch cushions for spare nickels to get us through. And when a wall popped up, when a barrier popped up, you broke it down like the Kool-Aid man. I don't know if it's appropriate to call an admiral the Kool-Aid man of NJS, but if it's not, I'm sure I'll see you soon. And Admiral Myers, I want to thank you for being here, not just for being here on short notice and presiding over this special day, but I really want to thank you for all of the contributions your team in the Navy Reserve Law Program make here at the schoolhouse. I've been working closely with that team for the last 14 months, and we can't do what we do here without our NRLP partners. They teach classes, they grade exams, they coordinate courses. It's the most fully integrated active and reserve team I've ever seen. So both for being here and for the support your side provides, I want to thank you. And for all four admirals, thank you so much for allowing me to do this. It's been the most meaningful, purposeful, rewarding, and fulfilling job I've ever had. Thank you. XO Gibson, you were my XO for most of the time. XO, sorry, I'm just going to talk to another XO for a minute. And Master Chief, this has been incredible, and I wouldn't be here today without you. There have been a lot of early mornings. A lot of late nights, Saturday morning phone calls from the CDO, hard decisions, things that we had to do our part to contribute to NJS. And it's been a team. It's been three of us this whole time. Nothing was done by one person. No decision was one person. We were united in what I think was a really special way, and I think that's why we were able to get through this last year. This weekend, I was cleaning up my Weber grill. Anybody own a Weber grill? For those of you who own a Weber kettle grill, I was dragging it to the water hose, and I hit the world's smallest bump. It might have been an ant, but if you own a Weber, you know what I'm about to say, which is when I hit an ant, one of the legs came out of its little socket, and the whole thing crumbled in the yard. And I thought about you, Colonel Gibson, Master Chief Chisholm. I thought about you because what I realized is that, on one or two legs, that lever falls apart. And I think that's kind of a good analogy for what happened here this last year. One or two legs, this thing would have never worked. But you put a lever on three legs and it's strong, and you can make a heck of a pulled pork. So Colonel Gibson, Master Chief Chisholm, I just want to acknowledge that without you, I'd be a pile of charcoal in the grass. So thank you. And then finally, my NJS team. Everything the Admiral read in the award, everything that was talked about that's happened here, you did that. I didn't teach the classes. I didn't do the course coordinating. I didn't take meals to people who were in their rooms with COVID. You did that. And I just want to acknowledge it. And I want to recognize I came here a little confused, a little lost, and a little broken. And I definitely didn't know what it meant to be CO of NJS. You welcomed me. You taught me how to do this job. You taught me a whole new language of education and training. You connected me to this awesome mission. You gave me chances to dig in. You gave me a chance to take the podium. Thank you, everyone, except for one department who never let me take the podium. You filled me up when my bucket was empty, and all while doing great work across every program, department, and mission set. So I told you that last year my dreams were reality. This year, my reality became a dream. And for that, NJS, thank you. And Admiral Myers mentioned this thought of flagship. You have reclaimed NJS' rightful position as the flagship of the JAG Corps. That's through your hard work. And when I was talking to him yesterday, Admiral French said the words, "As it was once, as it should be, and as it is now, NJS is the flagship of the JAG Corps." And I want to recognize that that is what you've done. As Admiral Myers mentioned, every Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard judge advocate, every Navy legalman, and every Marine Corps legal service support specialist starts their military legal career right here in our schoolhouse. In these past 14 months, I've seen a team that spends every day relentlessly pursuing excellence and recognizes the massive multi-generational impact of what we do here. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about that. So if anybody's in a rush for your tuna sandwich, just give me a few minutes. Let's take a second to look around. We've got buildings that are 75 plus years old. Look how great the good ship NJS looks. That's because our facilities department works incredibly hard to keep this place in ship shape, which is no small feat. This year we've chased HVAC gremlins and leaks and lawn care challenges and shoveled snow and pulled weeds out of flower beds so that this place looks like the flagship. And I am proud to be a part of this because of all the hard work. Our IT department is a one-person department that supports thousands of users every day. And we're the only JAG Corps command that has its own domain, its own network, its own learning management system, hundreds of pieces of equipment. And the IT department is essential to keeping that mission going. And they've done it every day. Our admin department, they process, you may not realize this if you're not familiar with NJS, 5,000 to 10,000 different packages a year. Everything admin that touches an NJS student or staff member, pay, allowances, travel claims, awards, recognition, fitness reports, evals, birthday letters for your birthday. All of that comes through our admin department. And although it's a grind, they do it really well. And it's really because every sailor, Marine, and Coast Guardsman is family to them. So they work hard to get every little thing right. So thank you. Our education department, they've revolutionized JAG Corps training. They brought best practices, modern training techniques, and an adult education model to NJS. They do this constant assessment loop of level 1 and level 3 feedback, help us improve courses. And this year they developed our own instructor development course so we can be better at our jobs. And this was not in my speech because it just happened last night. But they've been fighting to get us a new education technology footprint for NJS. And last night we got approval for FY23 funding to redo education technology across our enterprise, San Diego, Norfolk, and here in this building. And all of that comes through the education department. So they really have done a lot to make NJS great. And our ASAT, I saw assistant SAT and upsell, all of this happens without the benefit of that robust architecture that every other schoolhouse in the Navy has. We're the only schoolhouse in the Navy, of something like 150 of them, that's outside of a Navy Education Training Command. So our OPSEL and our special assistant for training, our ASAT, they do programming and budgeting and planning for future years. So they're our N5, N7 shop, and then they're our N3 shop, fighting, when we've got 190 students on deck like last week, to navigate this breakout rooms and who's on deck and run the staff watch officer program. So they've done a great job of giving us, those of us in the podium side of the mission, the capacity to focus on that. And I love our Marines being present. Our Marine enlisted training, Admiral Myers talked about our legalman process. I'll talk a little bit more about that. This past year, our Marine enlisted training unit has taken a program, the primary purpose of which is to take new Marines, mostly fresh out of boot camp, and not only make them better Marines, but prepare them to support fleet readiness through legal training. And they bring in these young Marines 3 times a year. And historically, there was a 20 to 25% attrition rate in that course. This team has cut that attrition rate to less than 2%. So in the last year, these ladies and gentlemen in their dress blue deltas have cut attrition in their primary course by over 90%. What a great job, Marines. Wow. Our Military Justice Department, not only did they do their basic job of certifying people in accordance with Article 27 Bravo, but they played a vital role in what's now an ongoing bottom-up review of the military justice training continuum. What started, I can't find the asker of the question. There's the asker of the question. What started with a simple question, what does it mean to be 27 Bravo certified, has inspired an effort to revise the learning objectives and rethink our course offerings. And they didn't just ask why, but they're the leader in the clubhouse. They proposed a new continuum that is now with the Military Justice Training Coordination Council and is going to help shape the conversation this year so we can roll out a new lineup in FY25. Our National Security Law Department is not here. I'm betting they're not watching online because they're in San Diego. But they're at the forefront of one of JAG's primary initiatives, which is to build the bench in national security law. This is one of our primary priorities for OJAG for FY24. And so they've been working to standardize the initial law of naval operations training, make more quotas available early in one's career. They've worked in intermediate and advanced training, found partners with Cybercom and the War College to try to make sure that our judge advocates are ready and able to support the fleet's needs to defeat our adversaries if called upon to do so. They're working hard to make sure all of our judge advocates have the right knowledge, skills, and abilities at the right time in their career. And it's been a heavy lift, but it has a tremendous impact on our JAG Corps' contribution to the fleet. Our civil law department, I remember months and months ago, I don't remember what day it was or what month it was, I was wandering the halls and the whole civil law department was in the CLAW. That's our civil law administrative workspace, which is really just a big corner office that a department head said, I don't need a big corner office. I'll sit in a small office and we're going to use this for our team. I walked into the CLAW and they were all in there. They were doing a hot wash of the BLC, and they had taken notes every single day for 25 training days. And they took that and kludged it with the course critiques. And they were going item by item saying, what should we improve? What should we sustain? When we talk about getting real, getting better, they were doing real-time looks, real-time assessment to get better in the next offering. just incredible work across every department and program. And I'm just going to talk about three big initiatives. Admiral Myers mentioned the LNA throughput initiative. And just for those of you not familiar with it, the Legalman rating has a 20-year in-strength gap. In November, in one of my weekly phone calls, DJAG said, NJS has a role to play with that, to play in meeting that. And so I told the team, what can we do? And they sat down and looked, and they wrote a really well-written memo that used data and analysis. And long story short, we needed more spaces and we needed more people. But spaces and people take time. And so that team volunteered to take on this thing we're calling the pilot project, essentially increasing throughput by 15%, basically off of existing resources. And so we've already graduated a month ago the largest class of legalmen in modern history, and we've got an even bigger class on deck. And they're not just graduating more people, but they're monitoring. And so in the fall, they'll do an assessment of the impact of that on academic success, student experience, and staff strain that'll feed further actions by our leadership. It's a great job. Also, we have a few people from our detachments here. I want to say our detachments have done a great job, whether it was in San Diego, California was one of the areas worst hit by the COVID pandemic. So when we went to set a post-pandemic operating posture, they had to fight through facilities and local conditions, restraints, and challenges to get back in the fight. Our Norfolk detachment, I remember the first time I went down there and I couldn't find a speck of dust. Everything was all shiny and I was like, what the heck? And then I watched them on podium and they were exceptional. And so those two teams have lived out excellence in everything I've seen this last year. But it brings to another major initiative. Back in January, I was making a site visit out in San Diego, and it's very rare, but I read my email when I got off the plane, and there was a Sunday afternoon email from Vice Admiral Crandall. He wanted to talk about our fleet training, and I replied, yes, sir, I'm available. I'm about to check into the NGIS, blah, blah, blah. So I checked into NGIS after a long travel day, and I went to the bowling alley to get some fried cheese and cheese sticks. I was too tired to go anywhere. And I was in the middle of a wonderful, stringy, marinara-covered cheese stick when my phone rang with a 703 number. And there's only one person calling me from a 703 number. Good afternoon, Admiral. Captain Record, may I help you? And he told me about some conversations he had had with the fleet, questioning whether our legal officer course, legal clerk course, which are run by our detachments primarily, were meeting fleet needs. And so the next morning I got together with our detachment teams, and on the legal officer side, they said, sir, you'll remember, because of course they had told me this, you'll remember we just revised our legal officer curriculum recently. We've already taken into account those concerns. But on the legal clerk side, senior chief said, sir, that's a great point. We agree wholeheartedly. We have this email we were about to send you, offering a recommendation that we reduce the course time to 5 days, focus it on what legal clerks really do, offer more courses per year. I was just so proud to be able to call Admiral Crandall back and say, sir, you were right. My team is getting after it. We'll have a plan to you. 2 months later, we rolled out the pilot of the new course, and right now that new course is fully operational capable. And so before I leave the detachments, I want to acknowledge one of these really huge, important things we've done this year is this legal clerk course revision. And then finally, right now, there are about 5 major initiatives that OJAG is working on with regard to JAG's 2023 priorities. And one of those is a thing called the Accessions Onboarding Working Group. And the core of that group is here. It's people on this team who are very busy and have additional jobs, but they care about the accessions process and our new students. And so JAG has tasked the group to work to create a process that better builds trust and connectedness in our newest judge advocates. And our team here is at the heart of that effort. So these 3 big efforts, in addition to all the other things I said, are some of, but not all of, the great contributions of the team these past 14 months or so. All of which goes to, finally, I mentioned that I was grateful. Confidence. That was that thing I felt when I crested Training Station Hill. The number one reason I am so confident right now is because this team has it. Captain Williams, this team is ready, and y'all can do it. And the second reason is because of the gentleman sitting to my left, Captain Chris Williams. Last fall, DJAG called me and said, "Hey, you're going to be moving on. What should we look for in a CO of NJS?" And I'm pretty sneaky, and I love my job. So I said, well, you should look for someone who was born in Louisiana, served as a lieutenant in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, served as the SJA for Carrier Strike Group 10, did a tour in Iraq, was a commander in DSO North, and has successfully completed a Naval Legal Service Command tour. And I thought, all right, I get to keep this job forever, CO for life. Yay, me. And DJ said, I got just the guy. Everything I just told you is a lie, except for wanting to keep this job all to myself for the rest of my life. The reason I know Captain William, the reason I have so much confidence is because last summer, shortly after I got here, Captain Williams called me and said, hey, I'm coming to town. I got to make a site visit in Groton. Can we have dinner? I said the obligatory yes. I was like, I don't want to have dinner with anybody. I'm tired. Yes, and we went out and sat on the deck of the Oak Club, and I think I had a flatbread pizza with chicken barbecue. But we just sat and talked, and he checked in on me and on us. This was before he had any idea he was coming here. He was just checking in on me and on us because he cares about us. And then a few months later, he called and said, hey, DJAG asked me to think about volunteering for CO of NJS. And I said, so what do you think? And he said, well, that depends. Are they going to separate the CO function from the SAT function? Because that seems like a weird sort of arrangement. What I want to tell you, team, is he knows us. He did his time to look at what our opportunities, our challenges, our impediments. Even before he volunteered to come here, he was digging in on how we can continue to build on our status as the flagship of the JAG Corps, and he cares about us. So that's the second reason why I am so confident today. Chris, I know you're going to be the best CO NJS ever had, and I'm looking forward to watching from Norfolk. All right, that leaves sadness. That's all I got left, and it's kind of hard to be sad. Because honestly, all of the frolics and detours are part of a great JAG Corps story. And certainly the proverbial left turn in Albuquerque last year is the best part of my JAG Corps story. But I am sad to leave. When I got here, I said at one of my first all hands calls, one day, it's not about me, it's about you. One day I'm just going to be an old guy in black and white on the back wall of the auditorium. And that's today. And I kind of hate that for me. Team NJS, tomorrow morning, I'm going to wake up and you're going to be doing great things. And I'm going to be missing it and sad to go. It's been a short tour, but we've been through some difficult times and we've done some amazing things. You've heard me say everything good that happens in this world happens within the context of relationships. And I feel like we've built some pretty strong ones. When I met you on June 13th, 2022, I didn't know what to say. I was not prepared. And so I went with the only thing that could come to mind. I want you to have hopes and dreams, and I want to be part of your story. So I'm going to leave you with this. NJS, I hope you know how much you mean to me. You're the reason my reality became a dream, and you're the best part of my JAG Corps story. It's been the privilege and honor of a lifetime to serve with you. Thank you. I made it through. No tissues required. All right. Captain Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, captains will now perform their change of command.
I will now read my orders. Bupers Order 0903. When directed by reporting senior, detach in August 2023 from Naval Justice School and report to the Office of Special Trial Counsel, Norfolk, Virginia. Captain Williams, I'm ready to be released.
I will now read my orders. Bupers Order 0733, when directed by reporting senior, detach in June 2023 from Defense Service Office North, Washington, D.C., and report to Commanding Officer, Naval Justice School, Newport, Rhode Island, not later than July 2023, for duty as his relief.
I'm ready to be relieved. Stand relieved. Admiral, if you're properly relieved by Captain Williams.
Admiral Myers, Captain Record, faculty and staff, family and friends, good morning, and thank you all for being here today. I'd like to begin by thanking Navy Band Northeast, our color guard, our chaplain, and our bosun for supporting our ceremony so beautifully today. Ceremonies like this one are an important part of our military heritage, and your presence here makes our event truly special. Thank you for what you do. I'd also like to thank the members of the NJS team who helped put together today's event, Lieutenant Commander Sean Alexander, our side boys, and I know I'm forgetting people, but for everybody who participated and helped make today happen, thank you for stepping up to support the command. I'd also like to give a shout out to some of our special guests. I see Captain Select Stampley in the audience joining us from Groton. Thank you for being here. We're looking forward to your promotion in just a few weeks. I know you are too. Also, as mentioned previously, Lieutenant Colonel Tyler Whittick, one of our former executive officers here at NJS, the current vice president of the NJS Foundation. Colonel Tyler Whittick and I go way back. 17 years ago in 2006, we were deployed together to Iraq. It was an interesting time, and I'll just leave it at that. But we've been like brother and sister ever since. I just want to thank you for being here today, for your friendship and support these last 17 years. Thank you for your continued support to this organization. I look forward to working with you in that capacity and spending time with you and your family in the years ahead. So thank you for being here. And of course, thank you to my family for making the trip from Texas. I very rarely have the opportunity to have family at Navy functions, and so their presence here today is really special. Finally, I'd like to thank Captain Record, not just for giving me a great turnover and for the nice things he said about me, but also for being one of the best people I've had the privilege to serve with in the Navy JAG Corps. One of the biggest factors in my decision to make this a career was the quality of the people I served with. Art Record is one of the most genuinely kind people I've met in this organization. He also happens to be a remarkable leader and judge advocate. Over the past 2 weeks, I've had the opportunity to observe the NJS team at work. And it's apparent to me that Captain Record is handing me a team performing at the top of its game. Art, thank you for everything you've done, both for me and for this team. I look forward to working with you again soon. On my very first day at Naval Justice School, 22 years ago, this past May, I made a mistake that I thought was career-ending. I was so nervous the night before that I barely slept. And I remember getting up very early that morning to make sure that my uniform was squared away for the first day of school. As I looked at myself in the mirror, proudly wearing the uniform of my country, I thought, wow, I make this look good. And I said to myself, Ensign Williams, you are a handsome man. So I gathered my things and I walked across the footbridge to Building 360, not not a single ribbon on my chest, but man, I was confident. I walked through these doors, across the courtyard, and into the classroom just before the basic lawyer course convened. It was at that moment that I realized I had made a terrible and highly visible mistake. You see, I was so nervous about making a good impression on my first day of school that I had done some research about Navy customs and courtesies. One of the things I'd read was that it's customary to wear your dress uniform when checking in to a new command. I was also being promoted to the lofty rank of lieutenant junior grade that day, and so I thought, if there was ever a time to dress for the occasion, this is it. But as I entered the classroom that morning, I saw that all of my classmates were wearing their khaki service uniform. What was I wearing? Summer whites. Now, to their eternal credit, none of my classmates or any of the instructors said anything to me about it until right before lunch, when the Marine officer sitting next to me leaned over and said, "So, how come you're different from the others?" So I explained it, and he nodded and said, "I get it." And then he asked me if I was going to go change at lunch. And I said, "Oh no, I'm committed now. If I go change, then everyone will know I screwed up. I have to write this out." So I made it to the end of the day without anyone else saying anything. And finally, it was time for the promotion ceremony. So we went into the auditorium. They outlined us all up in front of the stage. The CO, Captain Dennis Bankston, administered the oath. And then he walked down the line, pinning on our new rank. Of course, I was at the very end of the line because W. And when the CO got to me, he stopped. He looked me up and down. And I will never forget what he said next. "Lieutenant Williams, you are a handsome man." No, that's not what he said. What he said was, "Lieutenant Williams, it looks like you didn't get the memo." And everybody laughed. And I thought, well, that's it. My first day on active duty, and I am already a screw up. Now everybody knows I don't belong here. My career's over. It's ruined. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Now, I told you I attended the basic lawyer course 22 years ago this summer. If you've done the math, you know that means I reported to my first command about 6 weeks before the attacks of September 11th, 2001. 5 months later, I was on a plane to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, to begin a 6-month deployment. In the first 5 years of my Navy career, I would deploy 3 times. I was frequently put into situations where I thought, surely, the Navy meant to send somebody smarter and more experienced. But as challenging as those years were, I never felt alone. I knew that a network of judge advocates, paralegals, and civilians had my back, no matter where the Navy sent me. That was a lesson I learned here at Naval Justice School from the amazing faculty and staff who supported my basic lawyer course. On one of my deployments, I was thousands of miles from the nearest attorney, deployed on a ship in the middle of the Indian Ocean. And when we started to take on detainees, I thought, I have no idea what to do here. I know there's the Geneva Conventions, but I'm not sure what my obligations are. My course coordinator from the basic lawyer course at that time was the staff judge advocate for a carrier strike group that was deployed in the AOR with us. I reached out to him and he said, "I'm going to walk you through it. Let's talk about Common Article 5, and we're going to go from there." And that would happen over and over in my career. I made a mistake on that first day, but I learned from it. I went on to make a lot of mistakes in my career, and I learned from those too. Eventually, I realized that the Navy didn't expect me to be perfect. It expected my best effort in support of the mission and my team, and it expected me to be committed to learning. The conflicts that defined the early years of my career have largely been resolved. But if history teaches us anything, it's that there will be another conflict. And when that day comes, our sea services will need legal professionals ready to support the mission. Legal professionals who can quickly learn and adapt, who will have each other's backs when things get tough, and who can keep their sense of humor, even in the most dire of predicaments. A lesson my predecessor, Captain Bankston, was trying to teach me 22 years ago in that auditorium. To the faculty and staff of Naval Justice, What we do here directly enables warfighting readiness and may well shape the future fight. It is vitally important work that I am proud to be doing alongside you. Together, we have the opportunity every day to show our new accessions what kind of organization they've joined, and to give our warfighters the tools they need to be ready to fight tonight. That is our mission. It is our duty. And from what I have so far, we are exceedingly good at it. I'm honored to be a part of this organization, and I look forward to getting to know each of you in the weeks ahead. Again, thank you all for being here today. XO, take charge and carry out the plan of the day.
Aye, aye, sir. Bosun, post the side boys. Will you all please stand for the benediction and the departure of the official party. Chaplain McGinn will now deliver the benediction.
May peace be with you, the peace that passes all understanding, the peace that this world cannot give and cannot take away, the peace that guards our hearts and our minds in all that is holy. Amen.
Deputy Judge Advocate General of the Navy for Reserve Affairs and Operations, departing. Captain, United States Navy, departing. Naval Justice School, departing. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the change of command ceremony. Naval Justice School staff and visitors are cordially invited to attend the reception at the Naval War College Museum at 1100. Parking is available at the Oak Club. Thank you all for your attention.